Our resident lawyer, Despina Priala of boutique law firm Priala Legal in Runaway Bay, is with us every Thursday to offer her legal expertise by providing some general advice on the latest hot topics. Of course, having experience spanning more than 25 years in the area of property and commercial law. She joins us now. Good morning, Despina.
Good morning.
Morning,
Good morning.
Despina.
How are you?
Yes, very well, thank you. And hot topics is the key because straight off the bat this morning, we've got a very hot topic indeed. In fact, it's an update of what we talked about last week.
We did. I was so excited to see this just a couple of days after our show aired last week, and we were talking about the Home Builder Grant, and we were talking about certain eligibility criteria, and one in particular about the commencement of construction. And if you remember, we were talking about how developers are going to manage this very short time frame of 6 months from the date of the contract to commence construction.
That's what we were saying, of course, because so many people are obviously have taken up the grant, there was going to be so much building activity and perhaps a shortage, and therefore that would cause issues, and some people might even, because if they missed their deadlines, they would have missed out. But all of that obviously has been taken to the powers that be, and they've said, yep, okay, it was too short a time frame.
That's right. So the government announced on the 17th of April that they've actually extended that 6-month period now to 18 months. So they've added another 12 months to the original date, and I think that's wonderful.
Despina, they may have been listening in to us. We've
They might have
motivated
been.
them.
I think so. Well, I'd like to take all the credit, but I don't think that's that's necessarily correct. All right, but I think what's happened is that the government has had a look at how many applications were in by the 14th of April, because they had until the 31st of March, of course, to have a contract in place. So these are contracts entered into from the 4th of June last year to the 31st of March this year. And then everybody had to lodge their applications by the 14th of April, which is what we were talking about last week. So I dare say what the government has done is they've assessed, well, how many applications that they've actually received, perhaps more than what they anticipated. And they've gone, you know what, there's going to be a lot of building and construction. I think we better extend.
So what does this mean for people who have got themselves signed up for this, for this scheme? What does it mean in actual terms?
Well, what it means is that they can sort of rest easy a bit in, I suppose, the comfort that the developer now has more time to make sure that the commencement of the construction of the project for that particular contract, now they have 18 months to actually commence it. So that's plenty of time, I would have thought, for projects to actually get underway, to make sure that the people who have applied for the grant, who then may have ticked all the other boxes for eligibility, can now rest assured that this last box, or one of the last boxes from the developer side of making sure the construction has started within the time frame, will actually be correct. It'll go through, it'll be ticked, and then it'll go through, and that'll be another criteria met.
Do we have numbers? Any idea of? Obviously it was well oversubscribed, so they probably even got more people than they were expecting.
Well, that's what I think has happened, and obviously this is also the whole idea of the Home Builder Grant. Of course, is to create jobs too, and that's been quite great for obviously Australians to see the construction industry have an increase in jobs, and people have security and I suppose tenure in that. Well, it's now going to be pushed out for an 18-month period for commencement of construction on projects. And that way, I suppose developers can have a bit more security too, that they can actually get their projects done right, and they can get the right people on the job and have sufficient time to make sure that that's done correctly for people who it'll affect.
Well, it's boom times up here. I don't see that going away anytime soon.
Well, no, that's right. Gold Coast has been an absolute boom market. Property market's just been absolutely going crazy for the last 6 to 12 months. So I think what we'll find from this, if I can say, is that now that they've extended the commencement of construction period, that they actually will now extend the completion date of the projects. So, and that was the second developer criteria component that we talked about last week. So The buyer has all of their eligibility to tick off, and then we have the developer side. So the two components were commencement of construction and completion of that construction of that particular project. So the current date is the 30th of April 2023. We've already seen that kicked out because the original date was October 2020 and the original commencement date was 3 months. Then it was extended to 6. Now it's been extended to 18 months, which is great. So I think we'll find in time that the completion date will actually be extended past 30 April 2023. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? It's logical.
Well, they changed a number of dates, as you say. They didn't change the sign-up date, for example. They didn't extend that to allow more people in by any chance, did they?
No, they didn't.
If you missed the boat, that's it. Yeah.
No, well, they did extend the contract period to the 31st of March. If you remember, it was only up until the end of December.
That's right.
And that's right.
Yeah.
And the grant was 25,000. So they did allow another 3 months, but the grant was reduced to 15,000. That's right. So now we have these extensions in place, or this one in particular, and I'm sure that we'll find in the future that the completion date will be also kicked out. So that's an important aspect for people to know, primarily for those who have signed contracts that are off the plan contracts. And we've acted for an abundance of buyers who have come in and said, you know, I want to buy in early on this project. I've got a great deal, I want to sign up. And they've got their contracts in place before the end of March. And that's wonderful. And a lot of them were eligible for the Home Builder Grant. And we've explained that they had this developer criteria that had to be met. So I think now we'll find that there's a bit of pressure taken off the builders and the developers to make sure that that commencement of construction starts. And I think in time the completion will also be extended.
And now that those dates have been changed, have you had any of your clients ring up and ask various questions about how their eligibility changes and what they need to do and that sort of thing? Is there much interest around that?
We get questions all the time. We try and help them lodge their applications because the application itself that the government's issued online, of course, has a lot of questions. A lot of those questions can't be answered because they're tailored to some extent to the in a context where the applicant, the buyer, is the owner. Well, they're not the owner yet, they will be. So a lot of those questions, it was about putting TBA, to be advised, and the rest of them could be answered. The most important thing is that you had to get your applications in as best you could and answer the questions the best you could. So hopefully everyone's done that. But now we have the news of the extension, so it's great.
And it is certainly great news for all of those people who are a bit worried, because there would have been plenty of people for one reason or another who who went through all of that and thought, yeah, I'm in, but then suddenly realised that there could be issues. And as we mentioned last week, if you didn't tick all the boxes at all the right times, bang, the money was gone.
That's right. So the pressure's off now. Yep. So I think that's great, and everyone could sort of go back to their normal lives, and then we'll see what happens in time.